first of all, if you can ignore the absolute state of my driveway right now, I am in full-blown painting mode, and things just tend to get hectic when that happens. I'm pretty sure I can finish this thing in time for the meet. I've already got the body finished, if you can tell. I'm not going to go into too much detail in this video though, we'll save it for the next one. But unfortunately, I do have some bad news to talk about in this video. It doesn't seem like the machine shop I took my engine to is going to be finished with it in time for me to be able to get it all back and put back together and put in the car and everything in time, especially with everything else I have going on, because I don't know what they're doing. Like I told you, they were out for COVID for a little while and they were trying to catch up on work, but I mean, I checked in there a couple different times today and they weren't even there, but the shop was locked up and they had the open sign on. Like, I don't know what they're doing, but in any case, I am not going to have an engine, or I'm not going to have that engine in time for the meet, unfortunately. With that said, luckily I have an alternative. So if you remember from the first or the second video, this is the D16 A6 SI engine that I had in storage. And this engine actually is technically for this car whenever I get to that car, which, I mean, it's been on that rotisserie for over a year. I need to get to it, I know, but for some reason I just can't seem to bring myself to. But luckily I haven't done that because I need it, because luckily HF and SI chassis harnesses and everything, as well as the engine, are really, really similar. And I'm almost certain that I can use this engine in that chassis with the HF wire harness, as long as I use, you know, the full like stock D16 A6 setup, like injectors and all that, and the SI ECU, which I also have. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this engine prepped to just have everything on it ready to go and get it in the car. I'll get the wire harness all installed, get the ECU in, and get a battery hooked up, and just kind of go over everything, and fingers crossed, but hopefully this will function perfectly, because I know this engine works. I did drive that car back before I tore it all apart and put it on the rotisserie and everything. So this one's just been sitting in storage since then. I don't think there's any reason why it wouldn't, you know, just kick back on, and with, you know, the appropriate steps to get there, you know, rotating it over by hand and everything, making sure the oil system's primed, all that, right? I'm still going to use the HF transmission, and I guess this will be kind of a neat little experiment to see how much gas mileage an SI engine, effectively an SI, can get using the HF transmission. So that might be kind of neat. Hopefully, honestly, if it did get good enough gas mileage, I might even just keep it in there and find another one or something, but we'll see what happens. I still intend to put the HF engine back into that, but it's all dependent on what the machine shop gets back to me with. So I got everything kind of staged over here. I got the intake manifold. I took it off a long time ago, but it's right here. Exhaust manifold's right there. Engine wire harness, clutch kit, some mounts, alternator, belts and everything. You know, the distributor, whole gasket set. Most importantly, a whole lot of coffee. So yeah, let me go ahead and put you guys on a tripod and start going through this. Before I get directly into the engine itself, someone in the comment did say that I should try to use some engine cleaner on this transmission casing to try to clean it up some. I'm honestly not expecting too much, because this really seems more like discoloration than actual like oil or anything inside of it, inside the metal. So you know, I don't expect, like I said, I don't expect too much, but hey, you know, if it does anything for me, I'll take it. So see what happens. Not bad, honestly. still a little bit of discoloration. The guy that made the comment did say that he would do this and then paint it, which, you know, is probably what I'll do. We'll see. It's gonna be a later thing, not a now thing, but I mean, just right off the bat though, like, that's not bad at all. Way better than it used to be. Nice. Okay. Sweet. Sorry I can't remember your name, or at least your YouTube username, before whoever made that comment right this second, but appreciate that advice. It actually worked a lot better than I expected it to. I'm gonna dry this thing up, get it nice and just kind of, you know, cleaned up, ready to be put on the engine now. Too bad progress the first day. I got the timing belt all changed out with a new water pump, new alternator installed. You can probably tell I was having a little bit of difficulty with the timing belt, just getting it all in time, because it was a little bit of a rough point in the engine to get around. This has been sitting for a while, so I think it was just something on the walls. It was just kind of like hanging it up, but nothing major. I was able to just kind of like rotate it a little bit until it kind of broke past that, and I think we're going to be just fine. It still seems like it has compression in all cylinders, anything like that, so not too concerned. But I was installing my new hardware for the exhaust studs, and I forgot that one's actually broken off. So I'm going to go ahead and try to extract that, but the sun is getting pretty low, and it's about to get kind of hard to film because of how dark it is outside, so I'm going to leave you all right here and knock that out. Probably do just a little bit more after that before I call it a day on this and get back to work on painting the hood and just painting the hood and the doors. But other than that, all I really gotta do is just kind of clean up the mating surface for the intake manifold, install that, kind of plumb some things up, get the exhaust header on, and yeah, that's basically all I have to do, honestly, except for a couple little odds and ends, and then get the clutch ready to go so I can mount the transmission and the starter and everything, and then I think I'll be good to put this thing in the car tomorrow. You probably see why I decided not to film at night. You can barely see anything, but got the clutch all installed, torque to spec, all that good stuff, and got the engine pretty much all fully assembled, missing a couple things here and there, nothing major though. And I'm about to stick that thing back on. Figured I would just kind of give you guys a look at it before I close it all up. Well, unfortunately it looks like my camera didn't actually record that last segment, and I'm not about to do it again, but the engine is in the car. I got everything more or less kind of plumbed up. There's a few little things here and there I gotta do. I gotta put the axles in next. I need a header. Issue with that though is that both of my stock headers for the, what I thought was for the D16, are too short, so they're clearly for D15s, so I can't use either one of them. Also, obviously, I can't use my HF header either. So luckily I have a friend locally who says that I can borrow one of his headers. It's an aftermarket one, but I don't care as long as I can get this thing back on the road. Luckily I have the stock intake for the D16. It's got a much bigger opening than the HF engine did. And it's looking pretty good. I mean, yeah, it could look better if I had the fresh block back from the machine shop and everything, but I'll take it, you know? So, gonna go ahead and pop these lower control arms loose so that I can get the axles in, get the shifter installed. I already got the clutch cable installed and the throttle cable installed, so aside from not having any rear brakes attached right now, I would have all the pedals working, but I'm getting pretty close to finishing. Got that all finished up. Got the new axles in, and while I was in there, I figured there's no better time to swap out my ugly lower control arms for the new set with fresh bushings, so those finally showed up. So now the front suspension is totally finished, and I got the shifter installed. Honestly, the shifts are not great. I'm not 100% sure exactly what's going on here, but like for some reason it's all the way forward and I don't really know why. I have the shifter oriented right to where it's like bent down and like in, so it should be leaning back towards me, but it's like all the way pushed up and I'm not entirely sure why. So I might swap a different one in there, see if that fixes it or not. But yeah, it's just super loose. I didn't replace the bushings because I thought I had some, and I'm still pretty certain I have some somewhere from some Energy suspension ones, but I can't find them. I don't know what to do with them. So whenever I find those, I'll stick them in. But for now, I mean, it does shift, so that is good. Yeah, this feels awful, but I'll fix that eventually. I also got my armrest installed. Just gotta put some screws in there. Figured it'd be nice to have an armrest while I'm driving that far. And so, like I said, headers are going to be the limiting factor here before I can finish everything up. I'm going to go pick those up today, but for now I'm just going to go ahead and start buttoning up some, you know, miscellaneous things. You know, there's a couple missing vacuum lines and heater hoses, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll get back to you when I finish with all that, and we'll see what happens. Well, I bet you weren't expecting a wheel reveal in this series, but as nice as these 9091 SI wheels are, they have some pretty big tires, and I don't need that because, like I said, I'm not trying to drive this car like a race car. I'm just trying to get good gas mileage and enjoy it. So instead of running these, I have something better in mind. These are the original wheels for this car. These are the 13 by 4.5 inch wheels, and those tires should have been 175/60 from factory. They have bigger ones in there. There's actually 185. I know, big tires, right? These are 165 tires, which is pretty much one of the smallest tire sizes you can get. I was actually thinking about going to a 155 just to, you know, be the extremist that I am, but it was too hard to find the right size for the sidewall with that, so I decided to just go with the OEM original tire size. But these wheels are so small that they barely even clear these brakes. Matter of fact, I have them statically balanced just to look a little bit better, not have those wheel weights on the outside. And I had to use these really skinny ones in order to even clear these brakes, because the little thicker ones I had for the bigger size, they would actually hit it. So here's what I'm gonna run, and this is part of what makes an HF, what makes an HF get the gas mileage that they do, is running tiny little skinny tires. So I'm gonna stick with these. And obviously these are looking a little better than most of them these days. I actually got these powder coated by my buddy Logan, and then I got the brand new tires and all nice and tire shined up. So they look pretty good in the fresh paint. up pretty much all night last night, getting my entire driveway kind of picked up because I had a lot of stuff in here I don't want to get rained on, and there's like a tropical storm blowing through. So I got everything kind of buttoned up on this thing, you know, all the random things, you know, just little things here and there to get it all finished up, battery installed, all that. And then I spent about probably 4 or 5 hours just trying to track down the reason why I couldn't get this thing to crank, because I tested the starter and it tested good, and I, you know, swapped out main relays, swapped out starter relays, swapped out fuse boxes, just every little tiny thing I could think. I went through the entire wire diagram for the starting system, and I just could not figure it out until I finally realized that there are 2 clutch switches on these cars. I don't think it's anything in 88, but it's like 89 plus. There's one at the bottom for cruise control, and there's one at the top, and that one's for your starter. I thought the one at the bottom was the only one, and I had bypassed it and it wasn't doing anything, so I figured it wasn't the issue. Turns out it was the one at the top that I didn't realize existed, so put a new bumper on that, and now it starts just fine. I also swapped out ECUs, get the SI ECU installed instead of the HF one that was in there. And now if I actually press down the clutch all the way, too long though, because there's basically no oil in the transmission and there's no coolant in anything. I still got to kind of finish those things up, but heck yeah, it starts. So that's that out of the way, so I don't got to worry about that anymore for the rest of the job here. I just got to focus on getting everything back on the interior of this thing, getting the glass on, getting the doors painted, the hood painted, fenders painted, just everything painted. And then fluids, and I just need to do brakes. So I have parts for that now, so I'm going to do those pretty soon. Probably today, seeing as it's raining anyway. I can't really paint anything because it's going to get rained on. So gonna get that knocked out today, and then should be good for a test drive probably tomorrow. Also, as soon as I got fuel priming, I realized that every single one of my injector O-rings was spraying out fuel. So I had to pop that whole thing off and change out all those. So all the fuel injectors have good fresh seals now. Obviously I got these fresh crush washers, and so the fuel system's good now at least. Good progress. Getting things knocked out. It might actually make this meet. At this point I have like 7 days left before the meet, so I'm working some pretty long hours right now to get this thing done, but I'm hopeful. So let me get these next steps done and catch back with you. Alright, well, after a couple days of diagnosing it up on jack stands in my garage, I think I got this thing 99% finished up. So engine bay is all complete, as much as it's gonna be. Got my headers back on. Funny enough, these are actually the headers that were on this motor originally when it was in the red car up on the rotisserie. So I had traded them to a friend for some stock headers. Those headers were for a D15, not for a D16, so more or less just kind of traded back, but he said he didn't even really want them anyway, so ended up putting them back on the car. And I gotta finish up the exhaust in this thing, because right now I didn't have a whole lot to work with, because I had no intention of running an SI exhaust on this car up until the last minute. So I had some random mid pipes and stuff laying around, and I've got the OEM SI muffler on the car again, the one that I took off initially, and I've got a pipe under there that is more or less a stock SI pipe. Looks a lot like this one, just actually has a catalytic converter at the front, and it was welded to this muffler. I had to cut it off because there wasn't any kind of joint, and I didn't want to run this old rusty thing, so I'm going to cut this off, weld it onto that pipe. That way I can run the OEM style coupler or flange to the OEM muffler, and everything will fit up perfectly. But right now they're just kind of butted up to each other enough to make it work. And I got all the check engine codes cleared. They were mostly just the fact that I didn't have these in there before. I just kind of didn't think about it until the last second. So all that's all routed now, and I've got the timing set. Got the interior mostly installed and cleaned up. Obviously, just missing the last couple things that I would need to have the doors on for, but all in really good condition. And unfortunately I don't have a plug for this, so instead I'm just going to use my Fab TLPC 4-way box for the way there, so I have a radio. I thought I had a plug for it, but I can't find it anywhere, so whatever. And had a lot of issues with the gauge cluster because the temperature gauge wasn't working, so I had to swap that out. I also swapped it out for a cluster that has mileage closer, much closer to the actual mileage of this car, because the gauge cluster that was in it was not original. It had like 350,000 miles, something like that, when on the Carfax report, a pretty recent report, was made at like 201,000 miles. So I'm just gonna call that the actual mileage now. But yeah, I got to the point where it is a turnkey car. Now that the clutch issue is figured out, it starts right up. Give it a minute, it'll idle perfectly at like 700 RPM. There's my radio box kicking on. Got my e-brake all set. I swapped out the shifter because pretty sure the other rod that connects just like from it connects from the actual chassis to the transmission was for a B series. You'd think it would be a lot different, but it's actually just slightly too short. But I got that swapped out. Now this is also, I didn't feel like swapping out the actual shifter on the arm, so I just went with the one that was on this. And it's kind of nice, this one's actually a short shifter, so shifts are nice and short and really easy to find gears. Not bad. So this thing is officially a much more easily drivable car. The fuel gauge is weird. So right now it has a little over a half tank, and it's only reading on E, and it'll kind of like work its way up and then fall back down. So I got to figure that out. But hey, as long as I know I have fuel, I'm not too concerned about that. I can just stop every 200 miles and never have to worry about running out of fuel, you know? So yeah, this thing's all buttoned up. I'm gonna go ahead and just drive it around the yard a little bit for you and show you how it's doing, kind of how it drives. Obviously I can't take it on the street right now in the condition it's in. No windshield, no windows, no doors, etc. No, you know, no seat belts, but I can take it around the yard a little bit at least. Luckily I have a pretty decent sized yard to drive around in. Oh yeah, obviously I also got the brakes working. So they're all bled and everything. I swapped out all the hardware and everything on the drums, so these drums are effectively brand new now. I don't think I need to worry about them for a long time coming. And the reason I have one random SI wheel still on is because one out of the 4 of those wheels that I got powder coated unfortunately had a crack on one of the spot welds. I tried my best to seal it up, weld it, everything, and I just couldn't get it to hold air, so I managed to find another one locally that definitely holds air. It was just a little crusty looking, just like all the other ones used to be. So shipped that out to Logan. He's going to powder coat that for me and get it ready for me to pick up when I go to Tennessee to catch a plane. I'm going to pick it up that day, and then whenever I have a chance, either before I leave or when I come back, get that tire mounted to have a full set on again. But for now, I'm just going to be rocking either this wheel or a Steely or something. as you can probably imagine, these tires don't exactly hook in the grass at all. Yeah, I'm gonna throw a clip in, but I actually had this thing up on the jack stands testing in each gear for what RPM you'd be at. And in 5th gear at 3,000 RPM, it's right at about 100 miles an hour. That was 4th gear. There, this is 5th gear. 3,000 RPM, 100 miles an hour. So, at irregular highway speeds of like 60 to 70, I'm only gonna be at like 2,000 RPM. This thing is gonna get such good gas mileage even with the SI engine. I'm told it'll probably be somewhere around 40 to 45. I'm a little bit of a hyper miler when I'm in cars like this, so maybe more like 50. See what happens, but I'd be pretty happy, honestly, with 45 miles a gallon. But anyway, I'm gonna get back to painting. I got a lot to knock out in a very short time frame, so I'm gonna park this thing somewhere where it won't have any risk of overspray and just start knocking it out, because I got like 4, maybe 5 days to work on it, and I've got most of the panels pretty close, but like some of them I still haven't even started on, so it's gonna be a grind. But I think I can knock it all out and get this thing ready to make the trip to Tennessee. So if you enjoyed, feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you next time.